Hello everyone, welcome back to the third science session. The theme of course is how does your garden grow? We're going to continue with the same allies we had last week. So the first one is to continue exploring what plants need to grow well. And the second, explore the part that flowers play in the life cycle of flowering plants. You know this step, you're very familiar with it now. Do you have a pencil or pen, piece of paper? If you need a rubber or ruler, etc., you can go and get that now if you're not ready and prepared. And last of all, you can pause this video whenever you like. You don't have to wait for me, which means that you control everything. You can decide when you stop or when you start. So you can stop, do the task, restart the video, which is perfect. Right, so number 3, we've got a quiz. And if we're doing any science topic, we will always have a quiz to keep you up to date with all the factual knowledge and skills that you need to know. So we've got a science quiz. So the first question is, what happens to a plant when it is left in the dark? Is it A, will it grow big and green? Is it B, it will go to sleep? Or is it C, it will turn yellow and spindly? I'm not going to move my camera because you won't be able to see the other sentences. Okay, when a plant isn't watered, what happens to it? Is it A, is it B, or is it C? If I'm going to quickly pause the video, I'll just continue. Which 3 things do plants need to make food? Is it A, is it B, or is it C? The more water a plant has, the more it will grow. Is this statement true or false? So is it A, is it B, or is it C? You select the answer that you think is best. Next question. The more warmth a plant has, the more it will grow. Is this statement true or false? So is it A, B, or C? Why does grass grow more quickly in summer than in winter? Is it A, is it B, or is it C? What job does the stem of the plant not do? Is it A, is it B, or is it C? Which part of the plant makes food for the plant? Is it A, is it B, or is it C? What job do the roots of the plant do? Is it A, B, or C? Next question. Remember, you can pause the video whenever you like. How should we test how temperature affects the growth of a plant fairly? Is it A, B, or C? And that's it for now. We do have another quiz later on. So that quiz is the first one of this particular session. Now last week we did look at vocabulary. So we've got vocabulary that you'll use when you're writing anything about the investigations that we're doing. So it's vocabulary that you would insert into your work, like air, flower, germinate. It helps if you actually understand what those words mean. So as we go along, you should be building up not just the knowledge of the words, but an understanding of the scientific vocabulary. And last week we also discussed scientific skills. So there are things like observe. So last week we were observing in the videos. We were observing when we measured the height of the plants outside. Investigate, we did start an investigation last week, and that's an investigation about will the plants that we measured grow taller after 1 week. So you'll find out in the video a little bit later on when I go outside and measure the height of the plants that we measured last week. Explore, question, describe, explain, record. So questioning is very important in science. Does a plant need light? Does a plant need water? And that helps you to build up an investigation. You always need a question that you want to answer in an investigation. And then of course we've got predict and method. We will discuss those further later in the session. So we had a success criteria last week that we introduced as well. So I can set up an investigation to find out what plants need to grow well. Well, our investigation is we've measured the height of these plants and we're going to measure the heights of those plants again, which is roughly about 7 days later. And then you need to think about what plants need to grow well. So if you remember, WALT, it's useful. Water, air, L for light, T for temperature. Remember, it's got to be the right kind of temperature. And the last T is for time. Plants need time to grow. They don't just suddenly, you can't just plant them and expect them to grow instantly. It takes time. And the next one is I can think of questions to investigate. So we've discussed that before. Do plants need light? To be healthy, does a plant need to be watered every day? And I can predict what will happen in my investigation. So if you don't water a plant, what do you think is going to happen to it? If you put a plant in a dark cupboard, what do you think is going to happen to that plant? So make a prediction based on what you know about what a plant needs to grow well. And at the bottom, I can plan what I do to set up my investigation. Well, we've started that planning already, and I can set up my investigation carefully. Well, we started it last week. It's fairly simple. We measured the height of certain plants, and we'll do the same again, and you'll see that in the video. And today we're going to follow the same success criteria as last week. So you're going to we can record observations, you can describe the observation, and you can record what you've observed. And then of course below that I can present the result of my investigation using scientific language. Well, if you write anything about what you see, then hopefully you'll be able to use the scientific language that we've been developing as we go along. So we can finally stop here, investigate and record. We looked at this sheet last week and we used it to record the height of one of the plants, but we'll look at that more closely later on. So we're going to move now into another part of this lesson. Well, it's been 7 days since we measured the height of the plant, so we're going to do it again. It's much sunnier today, but still a bit blustery like it was last week. So Sam's going to measure the basil first to see how tall it is.
20 centimeters.
20 centimeters. So the basil has grown 2 centimeters, I think. It was 18 last week. And then the coriander at the back.
12 centimeters.
So the coriander is still the same height as last week. And then we're going to move over to the mint plant, and it definitely looks a bit taller than it was last week. Sorry about all the noise in the background. So it's in this pot over here. So the mint last week was 8 centimeters tall.
12.
And today it's 12 centimeters. And we had the lavender in a small plastic pot, but we've transferred it into this huge pot. That I think it's the one at the back, Sam. That's why I put the tag there. So how tall is the lavender, Sam?
38 centimeters.
Right, so last week it was about 25 centimeters. And then we're going to move over to where the the bay tree is. I'm going to quickly walk down here. Got a cat down there. This is the bay tree, and really we've planted the bay tree in the ground now, and not so much worried about the height. It's only been in the ground for 3 or 4 days, so we're really looking at the colour of the leaves. Some of the leaves look a bit greener, some are still very yellow, so we've got plenty of time before I think we're going to see whether or not this plant has much greener leaves, which tells us that it's becoming much more healthier. So hopefully after it's been in the ground for a while, it will begin to look a lot healthier, so the leaves will be greener. And then we're going to move over to, sorry Sam, over to this shrub here, Sam. And last week this shrub was in a pot, and we've transferred and put it in the ground. And if I remember rightly, it was about 42 centimeters last week. The tallest part, Sam?
Yeah, it's about 50.
About 50 centimeters. And then finally we come over here to the Acer. Now the Acer's was been planted in the ground about 2 days when we last took the video, so not sure if it's grown any
85.
taller. 85, and can you check that again, because last week was 89.
Oh.
I don't think it shrunk.
Wait.
If you hold it vertical, it's better. So how tall is it?
90.
90.
Yeah, 90.
90 centimeters. Perfect. Okay, so now we'll compare these results with last week's results on the screen. Well, I'm back inside now, and as you can see on the screen, task 2 last week was how tall were the plants in the video. So we've got the basil, it's grown 2 centimeters, so we can think all the conditions are just right for the basil. It's not only taller, but it still looks healthy. Coriander hasn't grown at all, so something's not right. So what I'm going to do as part of an investigation, I'm going to take the coriander out of the pot that it shares with the basil. I'm going to put it in a pot all by itself, and we'll observe any changes next week and record the changes. So hopefully the coriander will actually find the conditions much better in a pot all by itself. So we will observe and record the results next week. Number 3, the mint has grown 4 centimeters, so the conditions seem to be very good for the mint, and it's not only grown in height, but it's still tall. It's still looking healthy. And number 4, the lavender has grown 13 centimeters. It was in a small plastic pot last time, and now it's in a much larger pot, and it's got new soil. So something's really changed, and the lavender still looks very healthy, and it's growing immensely. So it's grown 13 centimeters, which is a big change. Number 5, the bay tree, the leaves still look yellow, so we'll have to we'll look next week. Our observations will possibly be different. I'm hoping, because I've planted the bay tree in the ground, the conditions will be much better now, so it'll have water, plenty of air, lots of light, the right temperature, and it's got time to grow, as well as it will have more space on the ground rather than in that pot, and it will also have nutrients in the ground, which should help it to grow better and get healthy. And number 6, the shrub has grown 8 centimeters, so that was in the pot last time. It now has more space, just like the bay tree and the lavender, and it's grown 8 centimeters. So maybe the conditions must be far better now, because it's grown 8 centimeters and the shrub still looks healthy. So that's an important part of our observation. And the acer tree has only grown 1 centimeter, but they don't tend to grow very fast. Now the key part about it is that the acer tree still looks really healthy. So we've observed, do the plants look healthy, and we've also observed and measured the height of the plants. So we can then record all of those things in on a recording sheet. So I've just got an example here. This is for the basil last week. It was 18 centimeters, and this week it's grown by 2 centimeters. So and it's still looking healthy, so that is a good thing. Now I'm going to show you a different presentation this time, and it's really going back to all the things that are important when we start an investigation. So we've seen the success criteria. I can describe what I've observed. I can record what I observed. I'm going to just move on quickly. What do plants need? Well, last week we set up an investigation into what plants need to grow well, and we were thinking about wilt. What questions were we investigating? Well, questions could be, what happens if plants have no water? Can a plant grow in the dark? If a plant has no heat, will it still grow? And there are things that we could actually try out. So I'm going to get some plants, give them no water for a week, and I'm going to put a plant in the dark for a whole week, and then we will see what they look like in 7 days' time. And then also I'm going to put a plant in the refrigerator and see what happens. So it's going to be much cooler in the refrigerator. Will the plant grow as well? Now the question mark, this is our question from last week. Will the height of the plant increase and why? So yes, all the plants have increased in height except for the coriander. So we're going to take that coriander out of the pot and put it in a pot all by itself. Why is the height increasing? Well, we can think about wilt as well as space and nutrients. So we have to do our observations, and then we have to describe our observations and explain what we've found out. And that's what we've basically done when we recorded the results. So we looked at how the plants look, are they healthy looking, greens leaf, etc. We measured the height of them, and we've recorded all of that on the last slide. So if we describe our observations, we have to look at the plant and then record our observations. So what has happened to your plant? Describe your observation using words, pictures, or both. So those are things that you need to start developing. Now, if we describe our observations, I've got a record sheet here of the mint. So 280420, mint is 8 centimeters in height. 50520, it has grown 4 centimeters. So I can hypothesize that the mint's growing because the conditions are just right. Water, air, light, temperature, it's had time to grow, as well as it's got space and it's got nutrients in the soil. So that's how I would describe my observation. So down below, it's here, the mint has grown 2 centimeters taller. Its leaves are green or looking healthy. That kind of comment or explanation of your observation is going to be important. Right, we haven't come to the end of our investigation, so we cannot write a conclusion. Well, the next stage that we're going to move to is a quick quiz about what plants need to grow. Because with all this investigation work, it's important that we remember all the essential facts and information that you need to keep as you're following your investigation. So let's look at this quiz, which will help you to think about all the investigation work. So what do plants need to grow? So they do need air, light, water. They need the right temperature. They need space, and they need nutrients, and they need time. So we've got waltz with an N at the end if we want to try and spell it like that. So water, air, light, temperature, time, space, and nutrients. Right, you've got a bit of a test coming up right now. So, what does a plant need to grow well? Starts with the letter A. Remember, you can pause the video when you like. Starts with the letter L. What a plant needs to grow well. The letter W. This is all revision, isn't it? Recapping stuff that you've done before. We've got T. We've got S. We've got N. And we've got the letter T. What do plants need to grow well? So we can spell it as waltz with N at the end. So you know you can pause the video when you want to. I'm just going to continue. Right, if a seed is not warm enough, it will not germinate. So we're thinking about temperature. A seed needs the right temperature to grow or germinate. Germination is when the seed starts to sprout into a plant. If a plant does not have enough light, it will grow to be tall and flimsy. As it searches for light, it will probably die. If a plant is not watered enough, its stem will be fragile and have very dry leaves. It will eventually die. Fragile means very easy to break. So you can always go back and look at the video, but here's a little quiz for you. If a something beginning with S is not beginning with W enough, it will not germinate. What is the S? What is the W? So the word you're looking for, it starts with a G. G is when the seed starts to into a plant. You can always go back and check. So this was on the previous slide. This kind of factual information is what you need, and also it's the scientific vocabulary that you need to start using. If a PL does not have enough, starts with an L, it will grow to be tall and flimsy. As it searches for light, it will probably, starts with a D. Remember, pause the video when you want, if you need time to do this. Or you can do this all at the very end, after the video has finished. If a plant is not, starts with W, enough, its ST will be fragile and have very something leaves starting with D. It will eventually die. So what parts of a plant do? The leaves use a process called photosynthesis to produce food for the plant. They use light, water and carbon dioxide to do this. The stem transports water and nutrients to all parts of the plant. And the roots take up water and nutrients from the soil. They also keep the plant in the ground. So here's a problem for you to solve. So fill in the missing spaces. The leaves use a process called, and it starts with pH. To produce something, it starts with F for the plant. They use L, water and something dioxide to do this. So can you remember those important scientific words? If not, you can always check the video, rewind it and find the information you need. Moving on, the stem transports W and N to all parts of the plant. And the final one, the R take up water and nutrients from the S. They also keep the plant in the G. Now we're going to bring this part of the lesson to an end, and we're going to move on to